Welcome everyone to this first episode of Chemistry Stories or some shit. I haven't figured out a name yet, but this is going to be a new series where we interview guys about chemistry shit. So we found this guy from South Sudan, and he's going to talk to us about electrochemistry.
Hello, my name is Zipapule. I was born and raised in South Sudan. In this country, it is very hard to get these chemicals. I've been doing electrochem for about 15 years and I've been pretty good at it. I even use seawater that is come from the ocean sometimes because sometimes the salt is very hard to get. So that is just the overview of my life.
Okay, let's continue with the questions. So now we're going to ask this guy from South Sudan, why is electrochem useful?
Electrochem is a very useful process. It allows you to create the chemicals in an aqueous solution using only electricity and a good pair of electrodes.
Okay, so what electrodes do you use, mate?
I use the MMO. It is a mixture of ruthenium and iridium oxide. It is plated onto titanium. This electrode is especially good for electrolytic oxidation in the process of making chlorate and also in the process of making chlorine gas in a chloroalkali cell.
I didn't know people from South Sudan went to school, so how do you know so much?
I know so much because I use the internet. The internet is really good, useful hub for information. Also, my parents were geniuses, but the problem is the government caused them to fail. Problems occurred after some time, but that is a personal story I will not mention.
Ah, right.
Sorry for your loss.
Sorry. Okay, alright, so let's go on to the next question. What compounds are used to make HCl in electrochemistry?
My method of making HCl is by using a chloroalkali cell followed by a membrane to allow the formation of chlorine gas and sodium hydroxide in the respective compartments. This chlorine gas is then put into my UV photochemical reactor.
Ah, right. And can you explain to people what is a chloroalkali membrane?
The chloroalkali membrane is something that will only let the sodium ions through and not the sodium hydroxide back. Because if the sodium hydroxide comes back to the anode chamber, it causes the formation of sodium hypochlorite, which can damage your electrodes if you're using graphite. But if you're using MMO, it can also lower your yields by
You also
forming
mentioned
this
using
instead
a
of the
UV.
chlorine gas.
You also mentioned using a UV thing. How do you cope with the idea of getting skin cancer?
I'm a black man. I have the dark skin. So skin cancer is not an issue.
Alright. Why is it hard sometimes to get compounds? Because you live in South Sudan.
In South Sudan, nothing here is available. I literally live in a shack in the middle of the jungle. It is like a 5 kilometer walk to town, and that's where I get my materials for the next day. So most of my homemade syntheses are from the bare minimum. All I have is the electricity here, which is good because if there was no electricity, all I have is a fire, and that is bad.
Yeah. Okay.
It just feels like a fucking fever dream.
What are advantages of sites such as eBay?
eBay allows you to get the materials easily, but you have to make sure that what you buy in eBay will last you for several years. Electrodes are good to buy in eBay, but chemicals are not.
So when is the best time to buy materials? Because obviously in South Sudan there is a lot of conflict that goes on. So for the people out there might want to know when is the best time to make it if they live in South Sudan.
I usually buy materials early in the morning where the bad guys are sleeping, because at night there is some raids and all this madness. So I always buy it during the morning, during the very early morning around 6 a.m.
Ah, right. Okay, so what was your initial thoughts about how to make it? How to make HCl?
When I first saw the reaction on the YouTube, I saw a big explosion. So what I did was I originally designed a bubble column reactor where I passed the both gases through a column of water with the UV. However, upon doing such tests, it filled my shack with a bunch of chlorine gas. Then I realized that the reaction was initially more slower than I thought due to the lower concentration and the wetness of the chlorine. So
Hmm.
that plan did not work out, so I had to redesign my reactor a couple of times.
Uh-huh. All right. So, what was the final method you came up with?
The final method is to use a chamber where there is a liquid phase below. I then use a opaque tube where I bubble the gases through. It passes through the water, and when it goes into the gas phase, the UV light will make it react slowly, and it will not explode.
All right. Okay. Um. So, so you pump the chlorine gas through an opaque tube, right, to reduce the risk of chain reaction, right?
Yeah, that is a good way to prevent the explosion because that will not be good. Especially if you are sleeping nearby, it will make you wake up, and then your neighbors might get mad if you had them. But luckily, I do not have the neighbor. My only neighbor is a tiger over there. It is far away.
All right. Okay. When you were actually getting compounds from that shop that's about 5 kilometers away from you, how contaminated are they?
Holy shit! You will not believe this, but the HCl that they sell over there has the benzalkonium chloride. When I use this for my synthesis, I end up with the tear gas. After it gets broken down, it forms dimethylbenzylamine, which is really bad for your health. It might even give you the cancer. The UV does not give the black man the cancer, but this chemical will definitely give me the cancer.
Ah, right. And was there any other compounds that might have been created as well? Like, was there like any form of fatty acids that were made?
Well, I have researched about the decomposition chain, and those are present. They also give it that minty smell after the decomposition, but your eyes be burning at the same time. So I do not recommend using contaminated HCl.
Ah, right. Okay. How did you avoid, you trying to extract HCl from that one that had benzalkonium chloride?
Tried to do the distillation, but the problem was the minty smell was coming over and the decomposition products were also coming over. When I put this into my chlorate cell for pH control, it caused the problem because after I opened the cell when the runtime was over, it gave me a bunch of teary ice, which shows that the tear gas was made. Hence, I stopped using this forever.
Oh, right. Okay. So you went to the electrolysis method. Oh, sorry, the electrochemistry method after this, didn't you? Um, after
Yes,
you.
that is my current method of production of HCl. It seems to be working well.
Ah, right. Okay. It was nice talking to you, man. Um, uh, are you gonna go back to your hut now?
I'm gonna go back to my hut and hopefully tweak my experiment so it will perform better. Efficiency is everything.
Yeah. And you also have to be experienced as well, don't you?
Yeah, you cannot do this when you're dumb, so please do a lot of reading. You have to go through like 50 research articles before you even start your experiment so you know all the risk. And you know you can afford to take some of them, but others you cannot.
Ah, right. Okay. So thank you for joining us, mate. That was great. When is your internet curfew?
Holy shit, it is coming up in 3 hours. My data will soon run out. But good thing I was still able to do this when I can.
Well, it was great to have you here. All right. Well, this is the end of this episode. Thank you for watching.